Welcome into a Wednesday edition. It is Orange and Blue today. Cecil Lammy, Andrew Mason, here to talk about the Denver Broncos. And did the Broncos' chances of getting a home playoff game go down today, Mace?
Well, if you're going to be optimistic and say, well, they're going to win the AFC West, they didn't. But if you are a realist and say, okay, they are in an extraordinarily competitive division where they probably have at best about a 33% chance to win the division because of teams like the Chiefs and the Chargers, then you have to say because the NFL owners voted not to change how playoff seedings are done, that their chances of having a home game did go down today.
Chances
or at least stayed the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, but went down, I think, from what we hoped for going into the week.
Yeah, going into the week, and we're going to talk about the votes that we got today from NFL owners, but were you surprised that that didn't go through in changing the playoff seedings there for wildcard round?
Mildly, because the fact that it got to this vote at the spring meetings, that they decided to circle back and discuss it again at these meetings that were held in the Minneapolis, St. Paul area this week, that usually means there's some momentum for change, that if they choose to table them and then come back to the discussion in May, because that means they're not completely dismissing them when they're having the discussion at the full league meetings that were held, of course, in Palm Beach in late March, there in late March, early April. That's the thing. So usually when they come back to them at this point, it means there's some desire to make the change, similar to what we're going to get into with the tush push later on in the show. I thought this was going to pass.
Yeah, I thought it was going to pass as well, and then it didn't. And you think about a home playoff game and how impactful it is for this team, Mace, because last year we had talked about the Mile High Magic returning, whether that's Sean or Bo or the combination or the defense. It's just different when you can play at home. We often talk about how playoff football is different. Playoff football at home is different.
It's different, and also, simply put, the chances of going to the Super Bowl and winning 3 games in a row on the road to get there are remote. It's not that it hasn't happened, of course, and it happened most recently for Tampa Bay back in the 2020 season, but of course that was also the COVID year when they went on the road and didn't have hostile crowds to deal with. The most fans that they had for any of those 3 road playoff games before they got to go home for the Super Bowl in Tampa was a few thousand fans scattered around Lambeau Field for the NFC Championship game. So you can't really count that because they never dealt with a true road crowd en route to the Super Bowl. So teams that had to go road to get to the Super Bowl, you look at it's a very short list, right? It's the
Super
Giants.
Bowl 40.
It's the Steelers Super Bowl 40. It's the Giants Super Bowl 42 when, of course, they beat the Patriots to keep them from an unbeaten season.
Yeah.
It's the Patriots back in 1985 when they beat the Jets and the Raiders and the Dolphins. It's,
Super Bowl 20.
Yeah. I mean, you can basically count them on one hand.
Right. So we have 20, 40, 42, and then the
Green Bay.
Year.
Green Bay in 2010.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that was what, 45? So we're talking about 4 Super Bowls in the last 40 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's what I mean. And that's what was sort of on the line here. Now, certainly you could start that first game on the road as a non-division champion, and maybe you get a home game later, but that the chances of that are pretty slim.
Yeah,
you're counting on so many upsets, so many dominoes falling that generally aren't going to fall. The chances of that happening are pretty slim. If you're a bottom 3 seed, 5, 6, or 7, almost certainly your path to being a Super Bowl team means you're going road.
Yeah.
And the Broncos being in a demanding division, they're coming at this with a disadvantage. So yeah, from the Broncos' perspective, selfishly in this moment, even though they did benefit as a franchise in 2011 from this rule because they had the playoff game at home, 8-8, the Tebow year, in this moment, they would have benefited from a change in seating protocol.
Yeah. Do you like the current format? Because for me, division matters, your neighborhood matters, your home matters. And the AFC West battles, I think the rivalries will start to spring back up against as the Raiders get better. And, maybe Broncos fans don't like hearing this, but the NFL is better when the Raiders are better because it gives you a good team to hate instead of just being a, poor or middling team to hate. But I'm big on divisions, and I understand last year you had Minnesota. We could have called this the Minnesota rule if we wanted, of oh my God, shake your fist at the heavens because you had such a great season. But if you don't win your division, you're going on the road in this current format. And I'm okay with that, Mace.
I'm not.
Why?
Because I think record matters. I think division should get you in the postseason, and that's it. In other words, there are going to be some times where you do have to shake your fist at the heavens and say, okay, and you did it last year, for example, and you did it. There are some years where you're going to see an 8-9 team get in and a 10-7 or a 9-8 team be out. It's going to happen. And you accept that and you say, okay, to me, that's the value of divisions, that a division winner gets in the playoffs. That's the value of it. So I'm still putting some value there, but I'm drawing the line at that point and saying, that's it. You get in and that's your benefit. No more. I don't like seeing a 12-5 team, Washington, at a 10-7 team, Tampa Bay. I don't like seeing a 14-3 Minnesota team at a 10-7 Rams team. I don't like seeing an 11-6 Chargers team at a 10-7 Houston team. I don't like this. I've never liked this. Yeah, it benefited the Broncos in 2011. I still didn't like seeing a 12-4 Steelers team at an 8-8 Broncos team. I think there's an inherent unfairness to that.
What if those games would have been different? I'm thinking back to, weren't the Seahawks and the Saints, wasn't that a situation where it's okay,
7-9 hosting 11-5, I believe it was.
Yes. Yeah. So we've seen this before. Of those three scenarios last year, would that have changed the outcome? Maybe if Vikings were at home instead of the Rams? Because playoff football is different and home playoff football is different.
I think it might have changed Chargers, Texans, perhaps too.
Maybe. Yeah.
That one seemed to just get out of control for the Chargers.
Got away from them.
An environment mattered. A few things go wrong early, the crowd gets into it, and it ends up being a slippery slope type of situation for the Chargers, and you start kind of falling back. And I think something similar happened to the Vikings as well, even though the game, it wasn't a full road game because, of course, it ended up being in Phoenix. It very much was mostly a Rams crowd that was out there, of course, because the game got moved because of the fires in the Los Angeles area.
Right.
So, but that one might have still gone the Rams' way, just because the Rams seem to have a better matchup. And of course, Washington did go on the road and win at Tampa Bay, just as in the 2022 season, Dallas at Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay was 8-9 that year and got in, and Dallas did drop the hammer on the Bucs. So there have been some times it's worked out where the better team has still won, but it's something it's always bothered me. Fundamentally,
is it bothersome for you because then a team in a bad division, let's take the AFC South, it's not great. So you have Houston, who's likely to win it again this year.
Yeah.
Does it bother you because they're playing a bad? I mean, look at the Broncos schedule. in their division compared to what the Texans are going to face. It's a much easier path to those 6 wins. Those should be 6 wins for the Texans this year. I can't say the Broncos can have 6 wins against their own division. Of course, I have them dropping against the Chargers this year.
I mean, sometimes you're already getting a benefit from a lesser neighborhood, right? Because you're able to stack up wins.
Right.
But if you're not stacking up wins and you're in a bad neighborhood and you get the benefit of getting that playoff game at home, I mean, what's going on here, right? Like, so this is another thing. If you have a lousy record and you win your division and you get a home playoff game, that meant you had a lousy record in a division that was almost certainly subpar. So you didn't even win a great division, right? And then you get the home game. You didn't deserve that. You didn't deserve it more than the team that went 12-5 in what appears to be a more rigorous group. So, yeah, I've never been a fan of this, Cease.
Okay.
To me, the division matters in just that you get in. You get the ticket.
So it's 4 guaranteed spots.
Yes, you get the ticket. That's it. I'm willing to concede that. You get the ticket. So it does mean something. You know, I think John Oliver once did this thing like, okay, where do you draw the line? You draw it somewhere, okay? I'm drawing the line somewhere and saying, okay, where I'm drawing the line is if you win the division, you get in, and that's it. And then beyond that, it's done by record. That's where to me, it's, you know, is it arbitrary? I mean, you may say yes. I'm saying I'm drawing it here and saying, okay, the line this far, no farther. Winning the division gets you in the dance. Where you are in the dance then depends on your record. I actually think that's a pretty fair compromise.
Well, this issue isn't going away. So before we wrap up and go to the next topic of the tush push, like, how does it change? Does it take another Minnesota type of season where it's like, okay, you got 13 wins, you're going on the road?
I'm not sure if it's ever going to change after this, because
if it didn't change this year, it seemed like the momentum was for it to change.
This was probably the most egregious example, right? Because Minnesota, 3rd best record in the league, having to go on the road. I mean, you had Detroit at 15-2, and you had Kansas City at 15-2, and then right behind them were Philadelphia and Minnesota, both 14-3. And Philadelphia, Detroit, Kansas City all started out at home, and then Minnesota had to go on the road. And the other thing on Minnesota, too, I mean, didn't they go into week 18 as the number 1 seed, if I'm not mistaken?
I believe so, yes.
Yes. And so they dropped from 1 to 5 immediately, just like that. If it was ever going to happen, it's now. There are some real fuddy-duddies in these discussions. The value of the division. And then the other thing it comes up is, well, sometime it might help you to have this and all that. You start thinking in terms of these hypotheticals, and then they start thinking, oh, well, there may become a time where it helps us. Yeah, well, there's probably going to come a time where it hurts you as well. You accept that. I'll take the thing that offers more inherent fairness, and I'll live with the results. To me, it's a no-brainer. I would have voted for the change.
Voting for the change is something I also thought there was momentum to change. The tush push rule was going to keep an eye on it, because even though you and I have an L against the Philadelphia Eagles, I'd probably still say it was an L against the defending Super Bowl champions. But taking away the tush push would have done them some good. I thought it was funny. Our buddy Aaron Nagler, who was fantastic, by the way, shout out Cheesehead TV. The Eagles had tweeted out a picture of like keep pushing or whatever the caption was against the Packers.
Of course.
And of course, Aaron knew on that play, the tush push, the Packers stopped that tush push. So thank you, Aaron, for that. But yeah, Philadelphia gets to keep the tush push today.
They get to keep the tush push, even though a pretty significant majority of teams voted to outlaw it. It was 22-10 was the voting to get rid of the tush push, but it needed to be 3/4. It needed to be 24. Fell 2 votes short. So most of the league, more than 2/3 of the league, is in favor of getting this thing out. But it's got to be 3/4. So just kind of marinate on that for a moment. A pretty overwhelming majority of the league wants this thing gone, at least at the ownership level. And one would suspect that ownership, at least with a bunch of these teams, didn't come to these conclusions without discussing with their football operations.
Yes.
The other thing is, of course, competitiveness matters in these votes too. You can read about this at denversports.com, but it's worth noting a few things. Number one, everybody in the NFC East, other than the Eagles, obviously, voted to ban the tush push. Number two, everyone on the Eagles' schedule this year but Detroit voted to ban the tush push, which includes the Denver Broncos, along with the AFC West. The AFC West, of course, paired with the NFC East in interconference play. The entire AFC West voted to ban the tush push. The NFC as a whole, which of course has to deal with the Philadelphia Eagles. You can't get to the Super Bowl in the NFC without having to contend with the Eagles potentially. The NFC, the rest of the NFC went 13-2 against the tush push. Whereas the AFC, those 16 teams, they voted against the tush push, but it was only by a 9-7 margin. And so outside of the AFC West, the other teams in the AFC went 7-5 in favor of the tush push, but the teams in the AFC West that are going to have to deal with the tush push this year went 4-0 against the tush push. So competitiveness, especially in the moment, really matters a great deal in these votes. So put 2 and 2 together. I think that's a big part of the reason why the Broncos, Greg Penner casting the vote today, voted against the tush push staying in the game.
Yes. Should the Commanders have made the officials give Philadelphia a touchdown? Would that have changed the mindset? Because a lot of fans wouldn't like a gimme touchdown. And the officials did threaten in that game, very important game, hey, Washington, if you keep doing this, we're just going to give them the score. Should the Commanders have forced their hand to do that? So the NFL, which is very attuned to fan reaction, sometimes they're slow to react, Mace. Sometimes they're fast to react if fans don't like it. Unlike other sports out there, the NFL is very keen on what you say about this game. So maybe if the Commanders had done that, we'd have a different decision.
I would have if I were them, but I'm that kind of AH. I would have done it on
aloha.
Yeah, I would have done that on principle if I were Dan Quinn.
Yes. Yeah. Make him.
Yeah. Make him do it. I'm forcing your hand at that point. I don't like the play. To me, I mean, the NFL and football got by for a long time with rules against aiding the ball carrier, right?
Oh, yeah.
What's wrong with going back to that? Go back to that. That's fine. I just play it the way it used to be. I'm fine with that. I don't like the tush push play in general because, and I put this out on social media, it's a rugby play. If I want to watch it, I'll watch rugby union. I don't want to see
it a lot there. Yeah.
I don't want to see these big scrums. I'm not interested in that. I want to watch football. It's not a football play. Yeah. Stop it. You couldn't, for a long time, you couldn't do this in this sport. Let's just go back to that.
Well, I know it's college football, Mace, but you'll remember that great USC Notre Dame game. And it was the Bush push. And it was like Matt Leinart pushing Reggie Bush into the end zone. and Notre Dame fans called foul.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. And I know in the NFL it took a while to trickle over. Remember Dalton Reisner throwing Philip Lindsay in.
Yeah.
It's like that. To me, that's what football is like you can't aid the runner in that manner. And that's just all out the window now.
Yeah. So if you're Sean Payton, come up with ways to take advantage of it. And you did see last year, of course, remember Quinn Miners and company aiding Javonte Williams in the Falcons game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is what it's probably going to take to really actually force action is just go nuts with it. Even though it'll probably make the game in some ways when these things come up constantly, it'll make it ridiculous, farcical, but let's just play this thing out to the hilt. And then force the hand. Or on the defensive side, do more things like the Commanders were doing. Just turn it into a joke.
Right.
And then really force the change, I say. Because I mean, it's not a play that's necessary.
Well, we don't force your hand. We just ask you for a little bit of help, Mace, here on our YouTube channel. How can folks help us out?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you never miss a vid. That's right. He's Andrew Mason. You follow him on all the socials at Mace Denver. I'm at Cecil Lammy saying OBT's a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned. And would you please stay frosty,